How's it going, everyone? Next up, we currently have Keion White, who's an edge rusher from Georgia Tech. As of right now, he's currently ranked 50th overall on the consensus draft board and is the 10th best ranked edge rusher, who's actually far behind Will McDonald IV, who we did in this previous video. Now, he is one of those players that has slowly started dropping in the draft board. He was ranked as high as 38 at one point, now he's ranked 50th. And he was a projected first-round pick, especially in Mel Kiper's draft board when it first came out. They thought he'd go out in probably the mid to late first rounds, and now it's looking like he's going to be a second or potentially even a third rounder. But for Keion White, he is a 6'5", 285-pound athletic freak. He ran a 4.79 at his pro day. He did not run at the combine. And he only ran once at the pro day due to, well, his second run, he tweaked his hamstring, which sucks. But still, 4.79, and it was a 4.65 unofficially, but officially a 4.79, which is still extremely fast for a man of that size. White did end up with a very high RAS score at defensive end with a 9.56 RAS score, so he is very athletic and very big, so that makes a lot of sense. Now, in his college years, he played along the defensive line for most of his career, and the reason I say most of his career is because as a freshman, he started off at Old Dominion, and he played tight end. Then in his sophomore year, he still continued to play for Old Dominion, but ended up being a defensive lineman for them. And in that year, he ended up playing all 12 games, had 62 tackles, 19 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. So he had a very good, productive sophomore year with Old Dominion as his first year as a defensive lineman. Unfortunately, the following year in 2020, Old Dominion as a football team did not play football, so he had an off year. He decided to transfer out afterwards and then went to Georgia Tech, and where his junior year, he got hurt. So he only ended up playing 4 games for them, unfortunately, and didn't really showcase his talent. Come 2022, he is now a senior, and this is where he started shining for Georgia Tech. He played all 12 games for them and ended up with 54 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 7.5 sacks. And he was named third team All-ACC. And so looking at his college career, he's pretty much only played 2 entire years at the defensive line position and was extremely productive at both Old Dominion and Georgia Tech. So what's to like about him? He's super big and super athletic for a man that size. I still can't believe he's running that fast. And it's not just straight line speed. He's also very athletic left, like sideways on the cone drill. When he bends, he's also able to quickly get into position and still be very agile and go after the quarterback. So it's not like he's just a straightaway speed kind of guy at that size. He's very athletic in the mobility department too. It's not just straight line. In his senior year, he had a pass rush win rate of 19.9%. The top defensive end in this draft is currently Will Anderson, who had a 20.3% pass rush win rate. So he's right behind him, and he's played all 12 games, so he had very good statistics and is right up there with what's considered the best defensive end in this year's draft. Another thing to like about White is he also has positional versatility, so he can play slightly on the interior or on the edge, depending on what the scheme is and what's required of them. In a 4-3, he could probably play more inside. And at a 3-4, he could play the edge or, not the defensive tackle, please, not the nose tackle. Don't do that. But on a 3-4 defensive end, he could play. So he has some versatility in that sense. But his best position is probably to play on the edge, as he's able to use his athleticism to engage the blocker on their shoulder and wrap around and go after the quarterback. When he kicks inside, he gets a little bit into trouble, but he's always seen to have a high motor and he doesn't quit on any play, and he's just relentless. Once the ball is snapped, he's relentless and just does not quit. So he has a lot of good things to like about him and a lot of intangibles. But now the bad part and why he's kind of been dropping in this year's draft, despite being a projected first round pick initially, and now probably a late second. I don't think he's going to reach the third, but probably a late second at the latest, is he's very raw. He's only been playing defensive line for 2 years. 3 years technically if you count his junior year at Georgia Tech, but he was injured for most of the year, so it counts, but it doesn't count. He's only had 2 full years. So he's a very raw prospect. He doesn't have a lot of moves in his pass rush. His main one is, I'm going to go around you and I'm going to go after that quarterback because I'm way more athletic than you are. And piggybacking off that is his technique is pretty unrefined due to that. And once again, he's very raw. He's new. He hasn't had the experience in that position, which is impressive considering he doesn't have a lot of move sets in his repertoire. And really, he's not a one-trick pony, but he's close to it. And yet he's so productive in the college, and not at just Old Dominion, but also Georgia Tech. So when a team is going to draft him, and if the Packers do end up drafting him, he's going to be more of a long-term type of prospect because he needs a lot of development, a lot of technique development. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's got the work ethic, he's got the intangibles. It's just he needs to get his technique down. In the pass rush, can learn a lot of moves. In the run defense, yeah, he's adequate because of his athleticism, especially if he's on the edge and trying to go set the edge maybe or run to the sideline and tackle a dude. But if he's on the inside, he kind of gets bullied. He doesn't understand how the flow of the run may go, or if he's going through the A gap or the B gap. And he kind of just gets pushed around and bullied a little bit. And that's where he also needs to improve. And this is why I think he's more suited to be on the outside instead of interior. And then the last thing that also is kind of hurting him in this draft is the fact he's 24 years old. So I can understand why he's been dropping in this year's draft. When you're going to draft a player in the first round, if they're 24 years old, you're going to want more experience and you want a more solid prospect, not a work in progress. Because once those 3 years, 4 years, you're developing this prospect and can finally become a starter, they're already 27, 28 years old and towards potentially the peak of their career. And not even like the beginning peak. It's like the mid/tail end of the peak of the career. So it's hard to spend a first round pick on that. But a second round pick and a third round pick, more understandable. You understand that you're going to get a very big athletic man who just needs some guidance and some work on and could become a very, very productive pass rusher in this league if given the right guidance and he gets all the movesets or most of the pass rush movesets under his belt. So it'll be interesting if the Packers do decide to pick him at the second round. It's hard to say if they will because we still don't know what draft capital we're going to get from the Jets. And that is holding a lot of this up. If we have a lot of second round picks or if we have 2 first round picks, the draft strategy completely changes. But this is definitely a player to keep an eye on, especially since we're expecting a decent haul for Aaron Rodgers, but we don't entirely know yet. And this player does fit what the Packers want. Nice big body dude who is just dumb athletic. Like, he is a gift. But let me know what you think down in the comments. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, go Pack Go.